Order the special legislative meeting for the Woodland Hills School Board, December 20th, 2021. All rise for this flag salute, please.
Roll call.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Ms. Hawthorne. Roll call, please.
Yes, Mr. Graves.
Present.
Ms. Lawson.
Here.
Ms. Curry.
Here.
Ms. Scott.
Here.
Ms. Reed.
Here.
Mr. Scott.
Here.
Ms. Creech.
Here.
Mr. Belmont.
Here. Is there a motion to accept the minutes from the December 6th meeting?
So moved.
Are they prepared yet?
No,
Okay.
they're not on until January.
Okay. Are there any announcements? No announcements? Any presentations, Teresa?
No
Okay.
presentation.
And no registered speakers?
Correct.
Okay. Board matters 2.1. We seek approval to accept the settlement agreement with Mr. James P. Harris. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Graves, second by Ms. Curry. Is there any discussion?
I have a comment to make. I would like to say, especially as a new board member, that this process was not transparent as I hoped it would be. I requested emails regarding the negotiations for Mr. Harris's settlement to be forwarded to me so that I can be informed about what was happening with it. And you, Mr. Belmont, denied my request and stated that it was per the solicitor's orders. I feel as though, one board member should not gatekeep information that I need in order to make an informed decision. And since the district is paying the solicitors for their work on the settlement, I'd like to see those emails. That's all.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right. Roll call, please, Teresa.
Mr. Graves.
Yes.
Ms. Scott.
Yes.
Ms. Lawson.
Yes.
Ms. Curry.
Yes.
Mr. Scott.
Yes.
Ms. Reed.
Abstain.
Ms. Creech.
Yes.
Mr. Belmont.
Yes. All righty.
Motion carries on.
Thank
7
you.
yes, 1 abstain.
Moving to section 6, personnel 6.1. Permission to hire Jonathan Kim as technology director effective January 15th, 2022, this salary of $105,000. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Graves, seconded by Ms. Curry. Are there any questions or points to make? Last week's meeting with Mr. Kim, I felt he was really on the ball. It was really encouraging. So thank you to Angel and everybody for finding Mr. Kim. Any other comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Graves.
Yes.
Ms. Scott.
Yes.
Ms. Lawson.
Yes.
Ms. Curry.
Yes.
Mr. Scott.
Yes.
Ms. Reed.
Yes.
Ms. Creech.
Yes.
Mr. Belmont.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimous.
Moving to section 8, safety and security.
See online.
Wait 1 second.
Hold
Oh,
on. Oh,
Yes, I'm here. You're asking about me.
hi, Mr. Kim. Congratulations.
Thank you. And first off, I want to start by thanking the board. It has been a pleasure working with you guys during the interview and hiring process. And then just for the community, a little bit about me. My name is Jonathan Kim. I'm coming to Woodland Hills after spending the last 6 years at a different school as a technology director in Westmoreland County. And before that, I was in the United States Navy working for the Cyber Defense Command for the 8 years prior to that. And then just on a personal note, I have 2 young kids, ages 11 and 8. I love watching ice hockey, football, and I'm looking forward to meeting with and working with the community.
Okay,
Welcome.
welcome, Mr.
Thank you,
Kim.
guys.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on, safety and security 8.1. We seek approval to ratify the agreement with AmGuard Security Services.
If I can make a friendly amendment, I would like to have that in substantially the same form as before the board, because we just received notice of this and made changes to it, but there still may be some further negotiations with AmGuard. So
Understood.
I would request that we would change the motion to say we seek approval to ratify the agreement with AmGuard Security Services in substantially the same form.
Okay.
Substantially the same thing.
Yep. Is there a motion to, for lack of a better term?
A
do
motion to amend.
Motion to amend.
So moved.
Okay, thank you. Second.
Second.
Second motion by Ms. Curry, second by Mr. Graves. Any questions?
Now, this is just on the amendment. So.
Just on the amendment? No amendment. Okay, roll call, please.
Yes. Mr. Graves.
Yes.
Ms. Scott.
Yes.
Ms. Lawson.
Yes.
Ms. Curry.
Yes.
Mr. Scott.
I believe I have to abstain on this.
Okay. Ms. Reed.
Abstain.
Ms. Creech.
Abstain.
Mr. Belmont.
Yes.
Motion
Yes.
passes 5.
Yeah, so the
Okay,
amendment passes now, voting on the main motion.
Oh, yeah, the amendment.
Okay, is there a motion on the original?
Move.
Thank you.
Second.
Second, thank you. Any questions on that?
Yeah, I have a comment actually. I feel like we don't have enough information on this, especially in regards to like the other contract being canceled. And so just like with the other emails that I would like to have, I will also like to have an email from last week detailing why it is that this contract is being canceled and that this contract is being canceled before. I mean, you may have enough votes to move forward, but I would like to have those emails as well.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike, if you don't mind, sir, maybe you can help Ms. Reed with some of her questions.
I don't have many questions right now. It's just, I would just like to see the email. I don't,
Understood. I'm just supposed to come up here and say that.
okay.
All right, so I'll send out the emails and any of you have any other questions, feel free to reach out.
Mike, I have a question.
Sir.
Mike, why have you decided we need to go to another security company?
Well, I actually didn't make that decision. On Tuesday afternoon of last week at about 6:40 p.m., I had originally reached out to our current or our Pal American security provider. And I asked, I'd gotten an email or a text message, I don't recall which one, that afternoon about evening security. Now, Monday through Friday after school hours, we typically have at least 2 security personnel at the high school athletic wing because there are a lot of practices that go on there. Game times we add on to security, but for practices, we keep at least 2 to keep any unwanted, unauthorized personnel out of the building. So going back to late August at our football showcase, security has been pretty much of a challenge all year, staffing wise and everything like that. And we understood that, due to COVID, it's been very hard to hire vendors that typically outside the security arena, like Target, for example, and Amazon, they raised their starting rates so high that it became very attractive for people to go away from the security industry and to find jobs elsewhere. So back in, might have been September, Pal American asked us for more money. We gave them more money. We significantly increased their pay rate, and it was still a struggle to hire. So for the last 3.5 months, we have not been fully staffed. We have been struggling week to week, day to day. So Tuesday afternoon I received communication from the athletic director saying, hey, I don't see any security personnel. So this had become not necessarily unusual. So I put out an email to our client service manager at Pal American. And I said, do we have security? If so, where are they? So a little while later, he doesn't answer me, but his boss shoots me an email back and follows with a voicemail email kind of simultaneously, really kind of hostile. And he said something to the effect, and then I had put this out in a previous email and make sure you get all these because it's actually kind of chronological. And basically he said, you may not think we do our homework around here, but I see an ad on a competitor's website that you're looking to replace us. So we had been dealing with 3 other vendors since September in the event that Pal American couldn't measure up. We were looking for an alternate back then, but we decided to stay the course, honor the contract, and work with them with Pal American as our partner. So again, for 3.5 months, that was the course that we maintained, and it was an uphill fight.
So let me ask you this, Mr. Petrocelli, have we had consistent security?
No, sir, we have not.
Okay, and how many security officers have we been down consistently in our buildings when it comes to the safety and security of our children and our staff?
We have originally planned for 8 at the high school and 6 at Dixon Intermediate. Correct. And towards the end, we were able to get 7 at the high school. But then what started to happen was it became a bit of a shell game where Dixon would be shorthanded. So they would call the high school and see if the high school could send any of their 7 or 8 down to make up the numbers at Dixon. So moving security officers from school to school does not constitute staffing.
Right, there's no consistency in that, is that correct?
No, sir, that's correct.
So let me ask you this, has Pal American have fulfilled their obligation to us on a consistent manner throughout the several months in which we contracted with them?
No, sir.
Okay, so what is the deal with AmGuard, and will they be properly staffing our buildings for safety and security of our administration and also the students?
Well, the management piece at AmGuard, I think that was the breakdown at Pal American. They had a changeover in management, and things started at the top and worked their way down. We were able, through some fast phone calls and the fact that back in September, I put out feelers to 3 different companies, all of them local. And on Tuesday night, when we were given notice that they would end their services at 2 p.m., and I want to throw this out just to FYI, because this to me, ounces make pounds and small items really add up. I get an email from a gentleman I never met, never even heard of. He's a new executive vice president at Pal American. Now, this is just one man's opinion here, but the money that we gave them, the additional funds that we gave them, we did not see any line officers show up at our schools. What I did see was additional management personnel show up at Pal American's corporate office. So the final email, I went back and forth with this gentleman, Tim Delano. And in the beginning, I honestly tried to explain to him. I went on the AmGuard website. I couldn't find anything. I went on AmGuard's
I think it's probably easier. It sounds like there wasn't good communication, what you're telling me. And then at Tuesday, they said they were leaving, and
that's correct.
You've had to deal with it since then. I think that if we...
Yes, sir, that's correct. So to sum it up, I'm sorry, ma'am, I tend to run off. But from Tuesday at about 6:40, we made some frantic phone calls and we pulled our resources together. And by 6:12, they did give us Wednesday. They did give us Wednesday. Pal American gave us Wednesday, as they said, until close of shift. And by Thursday morning, AmGuard took their positions. And I will say 100% of the Pal American personnel who were actually in our schools that we wanted to retain, all of them switched over to the new company in order to stay with us. So I thought in and of itself, that spoke volumes that they were loyal to the district. They were loyal to the team. They just, they wanted to stay.
So Mr. Petrocelli, let me ask you this, in your opinion, and I realize this is only your opinion, how important is it for the board to accept the new contract with AmGuard to provide further safety and security for our students and also our staffing up in our buildings?
It's very important. It's critical.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
Yeah, so, no, go ahead. Someone has a question.
I just want to make sure I didn't miss it, because the question that was posed, I missed the answer to whether or not with the new company, there will be sufficient staffing and how many in the buildings.
Yes, ma'am. As a matter of fact, since they've taken over in less than a week, we've been at 100% since they took over. And again, that's in retaining the officers that we wanted to keep with us and providing us some new numbers. What actually happened in our favor was they recently were hiring security personnel for Franklin Regional School District. So the fact that they had some additionally cleared security personnel in their roster, that helped us out quite a bit. So we've been at 100%, and I think now, we're moving forward pretty fast. It's been a good week.
Okay. So in regards to the cancellation, that is in an email and I can
Yes, ma'am,
be
it is.
forwarded at? Okay.
I'll be glad to forward that.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So we had a contract.
Correct.
The services were not rendered
That's correct.
appropriately. Yet we paid. So where is how do we ensure that doesn't occur again? It seems like, what action do we take when they did not actually fulfill the contract and we paid them? What do we do next?
If you want, I mean, I can explain this to you in executive session after the meeting of what, our options are, okay? Because this may involve legal matters that we really shouldn't discuss in public.
Okay. Thanks, Mr. Vogel. Anything else, Carlton? Ron, any questions? Terry or Bridget, Marilyn, anybody? Mike, thank you.
Yes, sir.
For,
Thank you.
summing that up. All righty. Roll call, please.
Mr. Graves,
Yes.
Ms. Scott,
Yes.
Ms. Lawson,
Yes.
Ms. Curry,
Yes.
Mr. Scott,
Yes.
Ms. Reed,
Abstain.
Ms. Creech,
Yes.
Mr. Belmont.
Yes, motion carries.
Mhm.
All right, move on to old business. New business. At this point in time, I'd like to wish everybody holidays.
Public comments.
I miss public comments. Thank you,
Oh,
John.
Mike, I have some new business I wanted to throw out too.
Okay, go ahead, Marilyn.
Sorry, I'm homesick, so apologies for not being there in person, but you do not want the stomach virus, I promise you. I've heard from a lot of families in the community with questions and concerns about our plan to potentially return in a virtual instruction setting after the break for a number of reasons related to, but not limited exclusively to, issues at Dixon, lack of appropriate security staffing, COVID cases on the rise, and people seeing family members over the holidays. So I wanted to sort of open the floor for discussion about where we as a board stand on, considering the idea. I think if it is something that we want to offer, we should be giving our educators and our administrators as much lead time as possible. And even having this conversation today feels later than I would like it to have happened. But I think it's worth having a conversation about.
Anybody like to respond?
I would like to ask Ms. Scott, because I didn't hear it, what building she was referring to? Because I think
I think the district as a whole, I have specifically heard from a number of parents with kids at the elementary level, just because those are the parents I tend to see most often, but also at Dixon as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I can co-sign with that as well.
Repeat that, please. Is this Bridget? No. Does anybody have
I'm sorry, can you hear me?
a little bit?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. I was just saying that I can co-sign with what Ms. Scott was saying. I've heard the same discussion and concern from teachers as well as parents.
Okay. Bob Finney has some input here. Come on up, Mr. Finney.
And after Mr. Finney's done, I'd like to hear from Mr. Wilson about Mr. Scott's comments.
Absolutely.
I've heard the same thing going through our school buildings as well. And me personally, for the custodian side of it, I don't think it's a bad idea if we could shut down for 2 weeks so we could do proper cleaning and disinfecting of our buildings. We could use the time to make sure everything's cleaned and fogged in that time.
Okay. Thanks, Mr. Finney, for that. Mr. Wilson.
probably a conversation that Mr. Finney and I should have had prior to this meeting. But I can tell you that from an academic perspective, we have absolutely no intention of going virtual after coming back from the break. We are ensuring that every scholar goes home with their Chromebook in case there's a snowstorm on January 3rd, or in case Omicron is unexpectedly more severe than the Delta variant. But per the CDC guidelines that came out last Thursday, they're not even recommending quarantining for close contacts that test negative anymore. The CDC is recommending a test to stay model, which we currently don't have an outline or a blueprint for what that looks like in the district. But the CDC is doubling down on, in terms of COVID, keeping children in the building as much as humanly possible, even with the spread of Omicron, and only having scholars home that are testing positive. So in terms of Omicron, there is absolutely no academic reason nor plan for us to be virtual when we come back. We do plan to ensure that every scholar has a Chromebook when they go home in case we do have a snowstorm, or in case the CDC guidance changes. Anybody that was here March of 2020 knows that it's likely to change every day between now and January 3rd. And if the guidance does change, then we will be ready to be virtual, but we do not have any intention of being virtual when we come back. I can't speak to any of the other things that Ms. Scott was talking about, nor to the cleanliness of the buildings, but in-person instruction should be a high priority based on what we're hearing from the Department of Education and the CDC.
Mr. Wilson, we appreciate that question. Do we have an idea, the kids went home today, what percentage of those kids have their devices?
All of the 6th through 12th grade scholars have their devices. Not all of the pre-K to 5th grade scholars have their devices. I could guesstimate that about half of our pre-K to 5th grade scholars have their devices because they've had to have them for homework or they're working on a project. But the standard operating procedure in pre-K to 5th grade is to only send them home with scholars when we know that scholars will be out, or when there's a high percentage chance that scholars will be out the following day. So if it looks like it's going to snow, we send Chromebooks home with scholars. If a scholar has an exposure, then we send a Chromebook home with the scholar. If a scholar even says like, oh, hey, my mom coughed this morning, whatever it is, if there's any reason to believe that a scholar might be absent in the following day, then we send them home with a Chromebook. But standard operating procedure in the pre-K to 5th grade buildings right now is to leave the Chromebooks in the classroom and only send them home when we think that scholars will need them the following day. As you all know, we then cannot count days that scholars don't have Chromebooks as flexible instruction days or emergency instruction days, depending on the template that we're using. So we cannot count instructional hours nor days if scholars don't have their Chromebooks. So right now, if we went virtual tomorrow, for example, hypothetically, we're not going virtual tomorrow. I don't want anybody thinking that that's what we're doing. Hypothetically, if we had to go virtual tomorrow, Dixon and the high school could count those days as an instructional day. None of our elementary schools could, and we would have to eat into our Act 80 days and into the summer.
Okay, so Mr. Bellman, if you don't mind, I think with Ms. Creech and Ms. Scott was a very good question that they're hearing. Is there any way we can hear from any other administrators about their opinion about virtual compared to in-session learning?
That's a great idea.
So I'd like to hear from our other administrators. Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
Absolutely.
And Mr. Finney, I would like to hear from you again about how long you think it'll take for you to do proper cleaning of our facilities after we hear from the other administrators. Thank you.
Anybody zooming in from administration, would you please weigh in?
Hi, this is Dr. Perry. How's everyone? I feel that it wouldn't be a bad thing to shut down if the numbers do spike, even if the CDC guidelines says something else. I think that we should always take into consideration the safety of our students. And like Mr. Wilson did say, all of our students are prepared to go virtual if need be. And then tomorrow, what we plan on doing is making sure that because enrollment is increasing, we do have new students, and we will ensure that those students receive Chromebooks, and we'll do an all call just to make sure if anybody needs to change out their Chromebooks. But I don't think that it would be a bad idea to go virtual if it's necessary. I think the district has done well with considering students, and when we had to shut down, the district did a good job with doing that.
Thank you, Dr. Pert. Anybody else, please?
In particular, I'd like to hear from Ms. Zackel and Ms. Scott. I mean, not Ms. Scott, Ms. Golden, about the impact it would have on the kids if how we do it, especially Ms. Zackel, please. Is she on the Zoom? Oh, well, I guess we won't hear from Ms. Zackel.
Ms. Golden.
This is Ms. Golden, and I would tend to agree with Mr. Wilson that I don't feel like we should, have the students virtual unless it's absolutely necessary. I feel that we are already dealing with the impact of students not being in the buildings for that past year and a half. And the concern would be that things would just, have the potential to, I don't want to say worse, but would make things more challenging. So I would tend to agree that the students need to return unless, something major happens.
Okay.
So can I ask a
Thanks, Ms. Golden. Go ahead, Rana.
So Ms. Golden, in your opinion, are the behaviors getting better? Those behaviors that we're seeing, the impact of not being in school. I know at Dixon for the first 9 weeks, there are about 90 suspensions. Where is that number so far this 9 weeks? And are there other ways that we can curb this without lost instruction time? Because we all sitting here know suspension means lost instruction.
Yes, unfortunately, I can't answer the question as to what the suspensions look like. I don't have that data. I'm happy to provide that for you. But again, I think that, our students we still need to reinforce structure, rituals, routines. And that's something that should be ongoing throughout the course of the school year. And I just think that, if we have any more situations where those things can't continue to be reinforced, that it makes things ultimately more challenging on our teachers and on our administrators, because right now they're struggling to get the kids back into the routine of school.
Do you think a hybrid model would help at all if we have half the kids in the building? I mean, Dixon's bursting at the seams. I'd like to start a discussion on maybe trailers or something to get some kids out of that building. But has hybrid been considered at all?
We have not had any discussions regarding hybrid. That's something that we can certainly, engage in some discussion over. I know that, the attendance for students was also a challenge, but I'm happy to engage with that conversation. I just don't think full virtual is beneficial to our students.
Okay, thank you.
Did you want to follow up on your questions with Dr. Pert?
For Dr. Pert?
Yeah, what you asked Ms. Golden, would you like to ask Dr. Pert?
Oh, yeah, if Dr. Pert, if you wanted to chime in, I know Dixon well, so that's where my kiddo is. I didn't mean to single you out. I just don't know. I guess the numbers up at the high school, I assume they're just as high.
Sure. So what's the question? I heard that someone mentioned that we had 90 suspensions, but also I know we had suspensions, but suspension is the last resort for our students. And I will say, we provide interventions as well. So even though we have suspensions, our interventions outweigh that number to date. We have about 400 interventions just from admin alone. That's not including my social worker. That's not including my counselor as well. And we have the data to back that up. So we're not just suspending students at Dixon. We're providing intervention as well.
Right. Yeah, I was using that as the worst case scenario, meaning, you know, things would be pretty bad if we're up at that many suspensions. How many so far for this 9 weeks? Are we around the same that we've run the first 9 weeks? Are we looking better?
Sure. So yes, suspensions we have decreased with our suspensions. However, to date, the last time when I looked at the data, we were at 140 suspensions, and we're doing well because past data showed that the district had over 700 plus suspensions. So we're doing well at Dixon. I don't think that we're going to supersede that number. However, we do enforce our protocols and we do enforce the code of conduct. And for the most part, 90% of the students are doing what they're supposed to do.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Pert.
Thank you.
Real quick, can we have Mr. Wilson talk about the Ms. Curry's hybrid model?
Yeah.
To see what his thoughts are on that.
Sure.
I think she brings up a good point.
I'm happy to speak about hybrid and instruction in all cases. We know that last year from March 26th to May 29th, when we ran hybrid, we had the worst academic and attendance data that we had all year, and that was with the rest of the year being virtual. The hybrid model academically and instructionally is just not a good model at all in terms of instruction. In terms of getting kids some social interaction when they have to be at home, it operates in that method, but even in terms of trying to mitigate the effects of COVID, it doesn't work very well because students are still then in the same space either the next day or within two days of each other. And we know that the contact tracing is a 48-hour window, 48 to 72-hour window. So I would not propose hybrid in any way. Quite honestly, I would prefer we go virtual before we go hybrid, especially if we're talking about a short-term situation, because then the social and emotional effects of being virtual aren't felt as badly. But I think that the data and the research and the data that Ms. Golden talked about, and all of the information that we're seeing around students struggling to get back into social routines and social structures, point us to think that in-person instruction is our best way to go if that's at all possible.
Mr. Wilson, following up on 2 points you made when you were up here previously. You said we don't have the test to show in place yet. So that's something that is forthcoming.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then you indicated the Omicron variant per last Thursday's CDC guidelines, not recommending quarantining after exposure.
That's right.
Okay.
If we can test to stay. Right now, we don't have the capacity to test to stay.
Yeah.
So right now, we're going to stick with the previous CDC guidelines, which were if you're a close contact with a positive case, then you're required to quarantine for 10 days, or you can come back after 7. If you've had a test within 3 to 5 days, you can come back on day 7. If not, then after 10 days and 24 hours with no symptoms, then you can come back. That's what we're going to remain faithful to until we've built our capacity to do test to stay. And quite frankly, if we were in the time window when we had low cases, then our capacity would be fine now with test to stay. In the times when we had, 1 positive case per building per week, then you have a nurse testing 5 to 10 scholars per week. We have the capacity to do that test to stay. If the numbers for Omicron spike as it looks like they're trending to do, then we don't have the capacity to have nurses testing 100 scholars a day. And we would need to rely more heavily on quarantining.
Thanks for the clarification.
Absolutely.
Anything else from Mr. Wilson? Okay, thank you.
Can we hear from Mr. Finney about the cleaning?
Yeah.
This timeframe about
Mr.
the-
Finney, Mr. Graves had a follow-up for you.
I'm sorry to bring you up again, Mr. Finney. We left that question out there and I want to hear your opinion.
Again, like I said, if it was something the district was thinking about doing, it'd be very beneficial for the staff to do a more in-depth, deep cleaning in our buildings, which 2 weeks would be suffice for my staff. Don't get me wrong, they are cleaning, they are deep cleaning their tables, their chairs, their hand railings, water fountains, and all that stuff. It'd just be nice to be able to wash some walls down and stuff like that, like we do in the summertime. We're fogging the buildings as well. So I would say 2 weeks would be suffice if that's something the school district was going towards.
I think I personally would encourage the board to think about Plan Bs because right now in central Pennsylvania, there's a big outbreak in Omicron. And also nationally, there's 1 million people a day who's testing positive for it. So I think with due diligence, I think for us to have a plan going forward on what we're going to do after this Christmas vacation, everybody's intermingling with everybody, that we should consider a plan for January of if we don't do in-person instruction, what's our alternatives?
So what you're thinking, Dave, is plan for post-Christmas, but for the rest of this week, stay as is.
I plan there's going to be a very big uptake after Christmas and everybody intermingling and vacationing and seeing grandparents and all that for January 2nd, I'd say the first and second week of January.
Okay. All right.
From what I'm looking at, was statistically what's going on throughout the nation.
Yeah. Got it.
Yeah,
Curry?
sorry, I hate to keep talking, but so another big aspect I think is staffing. How short are we on teachers, Angel, if you don't mind? Again, I can speak personally as well on this.
Sure. Currently we have several leaves due to maternity and other health related matters. On a day-to-day, it's typical. You'll have several call-offs in the building. I mean, that's for personal and sick reasons, not related to COVID necessarily. We do have a struggle with getting substitutes as nationwide, as we know. We do have building subs in each buildings, but they are being used to capacity. So they're not available to spread out as we would hope and what has been done in the past. So there is that struggle. And we do have current leaves coming up that can't be denied because, again, are due to health reasons. So we do have that as well. Again, not related to COVID necessarily, but for other medical related instances.
But it could increase with COVID.
It definitely could increase. And, you know, there's no guarantee that teachers can instruct from home if they're not well enough to do that. I mean, we do have that in place, but if someone is really ill and can't do that, then there's that because we won't have a sub in that classroom as well.
Following up on Ms. Curry's question. So when we were virtual, what was the absentee rate then versus instruction?
There wasn't. There may be a teacher that needed to go to a doctor's appointment, take a half a day or something, and they would post work for their class. So it wasn't the struggle that it is now because we didn't need subs for virtual instruction.
Yeah. Okay.
Unless, again, we had a leave of absence and we would plan for that.
Okay. Anything else from Ms. Boyd? Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Finney, come on up.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I should have mentioned, I heard a lot of discussion about the trailers like we had at the old intermediate school. So I've already reached out to Swissvale Borough to find out if we could do something of that nature because there are regulations for those buildings and those buildings have to be close to the building itself, like at the intermediate, for the safety of the kids to get in to access the restrooms because the trailers do not provide restrooms. So, and from what I'm understanding, we're going to need about 4 to 6 trailers. And I don't see anywhere where we're going to put them that is close to that building. But I am looking into it. I started on it last week. So I'm hoping to have some numbers and some information from Swissville.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Bob. All right. Well, we're hearing all sides of it. So where are we at? Does the group want to go virtual for the rest of the week, or you want to stay in-person instruction, come back after the break with a plan per Mr. Graves' suggestion? Mr. Scott?
We got a lot of good information. I'd like to discuss it. Can we do that?
You can do it right now.
I think this is a decision that can be made immediately.
Yeah, it's hard.
I think we need to think about all of the possible effects of it. So if we can't, I don't know if we can take a break and do that.
This is something we can discuss right here.
But what are you saying, Mr. Scott, that you're not prepared to make a decision now? Like
right, I'm not
today.
prepared to. We should. I don't think we should. I think we should consider all aspects of it. I don't know how we possibly could decide that immediately. Well, let's put it this way. I believe that we should not make a decision that is counter to what we already are doing.
Okay.
I don't see any information that says we should immediately shut down based on what we got.
All right, thank you. Ms. Creech, Terry, or Ms. Scott, anybody have any comments?
Yes,
I do.
This is Ms. Creech. Okay,
Go ahead, Ms. Creech.
I was just going to say that I do believe we take all the information in that we have, stay the course. We only have 2 more days before the break, and then to Mr. Graves' point, come up with a plan moving forward. But definitely to finish off this week just as we are.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Scott.
First of all, I just wanted to thank everyone for that robust dialogue. I appreciate all of the arguments that are being made. To be clear, I have no intention of disrupting academics further than they already have been, but I had heard from enough folks in the community with concerns about a plan that I thought it was worth having a conversation about. And so thank you all for indulging in that and giving of your time. I do not think that we need to be concerned about this week. Our scholars are already in the buildings. They're already doing the best they can to close out this week. But I do think that if we can get confirmation that every single scholar is being sent home for the break with a device, so that anything that might transpire in the 10 days or whatever, that school is not in session already scheduled for the winter break, so that we're not left with surprises, and certainly so that we're not left having more special meetings over the holiday break when we should be spending time with our families.
Thank you. I think, Mr. Wilson, you were pretty adamant about making sure the kids are be equipped going home. Ms. Lawson, would you care to make a comment?
I am going to say thanks to everybody, for giving such feedback and such great information. I'm going to have to say I would wait to see what happens. We're dealing, with enough of the kids are going through enough just before the year and change. They were off with COVID. We've gone through a lot of transitions. We've put a lot of things in place. I think that, the more time that the kids are in school, the more we make it more like normal, and let them enjoy the time that they have together as long as our environment is safe. Let them stay in school. There's no reason for us to pull them out for 2 weeks. Let them stay where they are.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Chair.
If something were to come up, or we see that, hey, there's attendance, a lot of kids are out, they're sick, something happens, their CDC regulation changes, of course, I think that we should make a move. But just to keep the kids out of school 2 weeks, just because of what we might think might happen, I think that's a bit much. But thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Reed, do you have any comments?
Of me? I didn't, sorry, I thought you said. I'm gonna have to take into consideration what Ms. Scott said also, what the administrator said. I can see the need in us going virtual after break, just because there will be family gatherings and things like that. I would be more in favor, really, it's a virtual option. I can understand why, other folks would want the students to immediately go back to school. I understand that as well, but I would lean more towards a virtual option.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, David.
I think I'm gonna have to agree with my fellow board members, Mr. Scott, Ms. Creech, and Ms. Lawson, that I feel like at this point, we don't have enough information knowing what the numbers are going to end up being. I just think we should I think we should think about an option, but I'm on Mr. Wilson's page that there's nothing better than in-person instruction within our district. Our kids do better, and that should always be our focus. So until we hear something or we get numbers that are different than what we have now, then I think we should go with in-person instruction we can't no longer do it at a safe capacity for our kids. And I think that's their best opportunity for success if we continue in-person instruction.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, we'll wrap up discussion on all that. We will stay in person for the rest of this week. Our group is diligently planning contingencies for after Christmas, and we'll make sure, I know the administrators, principals, teachers will make sure the kids have their Chromebooks on the students' person as they go home for the holiday break. Is there any other new business? Yeah, I don't see anything. Okay. Any public comment? Okay, thank you. Please state your name, address, and comments for 2 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, hello. My name is Carlisa Turner. I live in East Pittsburgh, and I have several children in the district. We would waste my whole 2 minutes if I had to tell you all that. So as I sat here and listened, I took some notes. And one of the things that struck me was a conversation about virtual versus in-person learning. And I had some other points that were more important to me at the time until this conversation came up. Some of you people know me, some of you people don't, but I'm sure you will get to know me. On December 13th, 2021, my husband passed away at the young age of 35 from complications from COVID and these new variants. So what I want you to do is take that into consideration as you make your decisions on your virtual versus in-person learning. I am the last person on earth to ever advocate for virtual learning. But what I must always do is put the safety and well-being of the children first. And what I can tell you after watching what myself and my kids and my husband had gone through from November the 12th until December the 13th is that these new variants are nothing to play with. No one thought that my husband wouldn't survive this. And as the doctors put it in the hospital, is COVID beat us. We are constantly dealing with the land of the unknown. And unfortunately, these new variants are coming with new variables that the hospitals themselves are not fully prepared to deal with. So as you consider that, consider if you would want to watch your child be on a ventilator, unconscious, in a paralytic state of sedation. And if that is worth gambling with for the sake of being in the building, I would disagree that it is worth all of that. I don't think that that is something to gamble with. I hate virtual learning. I have far too many children to sit in 65 different classrooms at once, trying to keep it all straight. But I also don't want to have to deal with what my mother-in-law is currently dealing with and be forced for me to have to bury yet another child who was a child of Woodland Hills. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. So that is going to be my position on your virtual versus your in-person versus your hybrid versus your whatever. Do what you will with that information, but I'm telling you as somebody who lived it and is dealing with it right now, it is not a joke. It is not a game. I don't give a damn what the CDC said. I'm telling you what the hospitals are saying. This is not nothing that we're just going to fight and beat. It's going to be a battle. Now, I had a whole bunch of other stuff going on, but now I don't even know what to say about that other stuff. I feel like I'm going to have to make a trip down to the building to deal with these other bullet points, because now I'm more afraid for anyone else's child or mom, dad, brother, sister, cousin facing what my family is facing right now. That is more of a concern to me, because it feels like we're very ho-hum about it. Some of the things I heard said like to knock me off this chair. It's not ho-hum. This is very, 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 very serious. And we need to take it very, 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 very seriously and really consider the safety and the well-being of everyone in totality. But more importantly, these children. This is crazy. This is not the time to be fiddling and playing. Y'all need to come up with a plan. You need to come up with a plan fast, and you just stick to it and stand on it. But make sure you're going to be able to live with the consequences of that decision should you choose wrong.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Turner, and our condolences for your loss. And we do appreciate your input on this. Thank you. Who else? Mr. Wilson.
We had another hand that has since gone down, Ms. Bivens. But her hand is no longer up. I'll ask her to unmute in case she does want to comment.
Hello.
Hello, Ms. Bivens.
Yes, yes. Good evening. So first I want to say, Corlisa, sorry for your loss again. She's a personal friend of mine, so I already, told her, but I want to say it again. My issue is with Miss Perks. Is it Miss Perks or Dr. Perk?
Dr.
Whatever.
Perk.
Yeah, her.
Please be respectful of your comments, and please don't disparage in any way.
I just really don't understand what's going on down at that school. My son transferred, it's his first year there from Moon Township. So he's going through a lot as far as his anxiety. He doesn't want to be in school. He doesn't feel safe at school. He actually asked for a phone for Christmas so he can feel safe at school, but that's something that she's trying to take away. And I'm not really understanding what she's putting in place to make us feel safe. I haven't felt safe in this school district yet, all year. All year, I haven't felt safe. And she's worrying about I don't understand what she's doing. Besides taking stuff away. That's all I see her doing, is taking everything away. But she's not implementing anything in place that's going to help.
Okay. Duly noted. Were there any other points that you wanted to make?
No, that's it for now. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Bivens. Mr. Wilson, anybody else?
Have any other hand?
No hands. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Pass along happy holiday wishes to everybody. Enjoy your time with friends and family as best as you can, given the circumstance. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Reed. Second by Ms. Lawson. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you.
Aye.
Adjourned.
Happy holidays.
Yes, that's yours.
Have a good night.